If your child completely changes when the lights go off, cries, calls for you, doesn't want to be alone, or seems to get scared out of nowhere, you need to understand what this really means, because the problem may not be the dark itself, but what their brain can no longer process without light. You put your child to bed. Everything seems fine. They're calm, relaxed, almost asleep. But when you turn off the lights, something changes instantly. They call for you. Sit up, get restless, or start crying for no obvious reason. And that raises the question almost every parent has had. Why are they so afraid of the dark? Is it imagination? Are they exaggerating? Because during the day, everything seems normal. But at night, the behavior changes completely. And here's the detail almost nobody notices. The dark doesn't create fear. It simply removes what the brain uses to feel safe. And that changes everything. The most common explanation is too simple. They have too much imagination. They watched something scary. It's just a phase. But that doesn't explain the real pattern, because fear of the dark appears even in children too young to build complex mental stories. So it's not about imagining monsters. It's about losing reference points. Research in visual neurodevelopment, including studies from the University of California, Berkeley on early childhood visual perception, shows that young children rely heavily on visual input to organize their sense of space and environment. In other words, when the lights go off, the brain loses its main source of spatial stability. And that doesn't create fantasy. It creates sensory uncertainty. And uncertainty, for a developing brain, is interpreted as potential risk. To really understand this, you need to see something most people don't consider. A child's brain builds safety through vision. In early childhood, a large part of their sense of control comes from what they can see. Objects, distances, movement, room boundaries. When the lights are on, the brain is constantly mapping the environment. But when everything goes dark, that map starts to disappear. And this triggers an automatic process in the nervous system. I can't predict what's here anymore. Research in pediatric sensory processing, including studies from the Boston Children's Hospital, Division of Developmental Neuroscience, shows that reduced visual input increases activation of alert systems in young children. In other words, the body reacts before the mind fully understands. Heart rate increases, attention sharpens, the body becomes more present. Not because there is real danger, but because the brain has lost predictability. And at this stage of life, predictability is what the brain calls safety. And if this is already starting to make sense, keep watching, because what comes next will connect everything in a much deeper way. You're about to understand what's really behind this behavior, in a way that completely changes how you see it in everyday life. Subscribe to the channel and stay with me until the end, because now the explanation gets even deeper. And when you look at this through evolution, everything starts to click into place in a way that feels almost inevitable. Because for thousands of years, a brain that couldn't properly perceive its surroundings in the dark was a vulnerable brain. Light wasn't just illumination. It was information. It was a map. It was orientation. Visible movement meant environmental control. Sound combined with vision meant the ability to react in time. But visual silence meant uncertainty. And uncertainty, in the oldest survival logic of the human brain, has always been treated as risk. This created a deeply embedded rule in the nervous system. When information decreases, alertness automatically increases. Now bring that into a child's brain. They no longer live in that ancient environment, but the nervous system still runs on the same basic survival framework. So when the room goes dark, when shapes disappear, when everything becomes unclear and unpredictable, the brain doesn't interpret it as time to sleep. It interprets it as, I now have less information to protect myself. And that completely changes the meaning of fear of the dark, because it's not about imagination, not about night, not about fantasy. It's about a brain trying to maintain control in an environment that has become invisible. And the more you understand this, the clearer it becomes that the reaction isn't exaggeration. It's an ancient survival system being activated in a modern world. And this is where things become much more emotionally delicate to understand. Because behind the fear of the dark, there is a conflict the child cannot explain. On one side, they want to rest, sleep, and disconnect from the world. But on the other, their brain still needs to sense the environment to feel safe. And when the lights go off, something shifts internally. The world becomes unreadable, and that creates a subtle but powerful feeling, as if something essential is missing. So the child tries to compensate. They call you, move more, open their eyes repeatedly, search for reference points, not because they want attention, but because their brain cannot yet accept the absence of visual information as safe. And this creates a confusion many parents recognize. The child is exhausted, but seems unable to relax. And this isn't resistance. It's not bad behavior. It's a nervous system trying to maintain control while everything around it has become invisible. And the more you understand this, the clearer it becomes. The fear is not of the dark itself. It's of what the brain still cannot predict within it. And if this could be translated into what the child might say, it would sound something like this. When I can see, I understand the world. When everything disappears, I don't know what to expect. I'm not trying to avoid sleeping. I just need to feel that everything is still here. In the dark, my body has to stay more alert, because I can't confirm that I'm safe anymore. And sometimes it's not even a clear feeling. It's more like an internal state that's hard to explain, like something is left unfinished inside the body. It's not about the dark. It's about not being able to see what makes me feel safe. And that completely changes the meaning of the behavior, because this isn't about irrational fear. It's about a brain still learning how to trust the absence of information. Now, there's something most parents never connect. Some children who are afraid of the dark also get startled very easily during the day. A small noise, a quick movement, an unexpected change in their environment. And that's not a coincidence, because both behaviors come from the same place, a nervous system that still reacts strongly to unpredictability. Whether everything disappears or something suddenly appears too fast, the brain is always trying to do the same thing, predict in order to feel safe, and that connects everything. If this type of content makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel, because here, you don't just learn surface-level behavior, you understand what is actually happening inside your child's brain, and that completely changes how you interpret every reaction. Now, if you want to understand why some children get startled by small, everyday stimuli, click the video that's on the screen. There you'll see why the brain reacts so quickly to simple changes, and why it's not overreacting, it's development. I'll see you there. Just click here on the video and you'll have your best friend when it comes to understanding your baby.